I think if you were to work in tech, I think you have two radically divergent ways to think about it. If you want to be a programmer and have job security, I think you have to pick something as close to the metal as possible. For example, NASA will not have JavaScript generated or like GPT generated JavaScript run the rockets, right? Or the Tesla cars or what have you. So if you want to work on embedded systems using C, you have job security for 50 years. The other direction is you want to get really good at being a product person, and at being a generalist, being a designer, a maker, PM. And that's because I think this like full stack developer, that's the thing that's most at risk, right? Because it's the thing that's most represented on GitHub. It's the thing that AI is most good at. And it's the thing that's already somewhat automated, like people using Replit and Cursor and others. You're already sort of automating a big part of it. So I think the demand for engineers like that, I think will go down. And instead, companies will look for generalists that can go from ideation to production code by using AI. And I think they're going to be a lot more highly leveraged. And again, also, if you're already in industry, I would run in one of those directions. Don't stay in the middle. I think the middle is going to get squeezed.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. My guest today is Amjad, CEO of Replit. Replit has 34 million users and just made its AI agent free for everyone to try. So super exciting. Really excited to talk to Amjad about why this is the most exciting time to learn how to code, how Replit is different from other AI tools, and how AI agents will transform product teams. So welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Excited to share more with you.
All right. So let's talk about how to learn to code with AI. Like a while ago, like Jensen Huang said, like kids shouldn't learn to code because AI will just do all the work for them. But you actually have a law under your name that says otherwise. So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, my view is that programming is evolving. And, when Jensen says something like that, I'm not entirely sure whether he means that we shouldn't teach programming like we used to, or the idea is that we should adapt to how programming is taught. So I think the act of programming with AI is significantly different than sort of sitting down and breaking down the problem into components and writing classes and figuring out how to wire these classes and figuring out what package to use. And in a way, programming with AI, I think, is a more pure form of programming because you're not dealing with, especially on Replit, because we automate a lot of this stuff, you're not dealing with the minutia, you're not dealing with the setup, with things that are really, they're not about building, they're kind of chores, right? So a lot of the chores go away and what's left is you and your creativity. And I think that's the most exciting thing about programming. And so the law you're talking about is, my observation is every 6 months we have a new model and every model is getting better at coding. And that's been the case since, GPT-3, because there was this observation that coding makes models more intelligent at everything else. And then, Copilot became a huge business and it turned out that, okay, this is a product market fit for this technology. And they started optimizing for coding. And so, GPT-4, 4.5, Claude Sonnet was this huge jump. And now we have O3 Mini just come out, R1, these new reasoning models, which they're really good at programming in certain ways, better than the others, and other ways, different. I think still getting better. But, this basically 6 months on the dot, or like, Claude 3.5 Sonnet was like, June maybe. And so by December you had like, DeepSeek V3 and O1 preview and all of that stuff. So every 6 months, coding becomes easier to start with and more powerful. So both the floor is becoming more accessible and the ceiling is being raised. You can do more things with AI. Therefore, every bit of skill of coding or programming that you learn is going to take you further every 6 months.
Yep, makes sense.
Some skills might get outdated for sure, but Nat, I think that just continuously learning a little bit this craft, the skill, is going to return exponentially more on your investment.
This episode is brought to you by Vanta. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a security professional scaling your GRC program, security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs across over 35 frameworks like SOC 2 and the ISO 27001. Vanta can help you start or scale your security program by connecting you with auditors to conduct your audit and set up your program fast. Plus, with automation and AI throughout the platform, Vanta gives you time back so you can focus on building your company. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Get $1,000 off at vanta.com/Peter. That's VANTA.com/Peter for $1,000 off. Now back to the episode. Yeah, and I love how it's made it so that you can get the reward right away. You can see the fruits of your labor. I mean, I have to give you credit, man. Because even before AI, I was using a Replit, and as just like a PM, right? So it's not super technical. It was such a pain to actually have to install these libraries, try to figure out which library to install and do all this stuff. But Replit made all that easy even before AI, and now. But even with that, I tried taking your 100 days of AI course. I think it was
100 days of Python, right?
Yes, 100 days of Python. Oh. And I tweeted about it, and then I only got to day 7 because life got in the way, and it just felt very removed from the stuff I wanted to actually build. So I guess how would you recommend? Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend 100 days of code to 100 days of Python. No, not right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you recommend let's say a total beginner trying to learn how to code? How should someone get started now?
I would start with something like Replit Agent. So you put in your idea, describe it in natural language. Actually, I can start sharing now. I think is a good time to kind of go through. Once you log into Replit, the first thing you'll see is what do you want to build today? And here you can put a prompt as, small and direct as you want it to be, or you can get really creative, and, product managers really like to write these sophisticated PRDs. So Peter, you should give me an idea just so the audience, doesn't think we're sort of cooking this and this is the real deal.
Why don't we do some sort of so for example, I have problems tracking my nutrition. I want to eat more protein every day, and using MyFitnessPal sucks because so many ads and stuff in there. Can we do something like a basic nutrition tracker?
I want a basic nutrition. We can do improve prompt and see what it comes up with. So web-based nutrition tracker, monitor daily food intake, food entry system, accurate nutrient, daily nutrition summary, progress. Okay, great. Let's go.
All right. That was the PM part. You just skipped that part.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so now we go into this sort of lobby experience where the agent is, takes our prompt, is constructing a plan behind the scenes, and any second it's going to give you a plan. So it says it picked a stack for you. It says I'm going to use Streamlit for this because I think it sort of inferred that it is a kind of data and visualization heavy application. You can change that. So I can just say, no, I want it in React, and I'll propose a new plan. But let's go with this and see. Let's go with a recommended solution and see what it comes up with.
Yeah, that's cool that it gives you the plan first to approve before you just starts coding.
Because we have multiple, and I think we'll get to that when we're talking about other tools, but we have a lot of different stacks, and we're going to be adding more. We're going to be adding a mobile stack, because we want people to do whatever they want. And sometimes one stack will not be able to do everything for you. So, back to the question of how do you learn to code today? I would really start by making things. And the reason why you should start this way is because now you understand what coding is for. Whereas the way coding typically is taught is you teach the programming, you teach the F statement, whatever, but you wouldn't know what to do with it. And so here we are inverting it, where we're going to actually sort of show you what you can do with it. And then the way you learn is basically you'll run into a problem invariably, and you're going to have to figure out what kind of tools you need to recover from this problem. and that'll, expose you to code. The AI might get totally blocked and you have to go and like find other tools, go to Stack Overflow, go read the code, go explain the code. So now it's taking a screenshot of the app. It built the app and now it presented it to us. It looked at it, it wrote the code, looked at it, make sure it's working, and then it presented it to us. So here it's gonna, we're gonna put our, weight and height and age and let's say moderate activity. And let's say we want to lose weight. Search for food item. I wonder where to get the data from.
Does it ask some data? Or?
I think that it maybe tried to get, or maybe it expects me to add a meal here. So add to meal plan. Apple. Okay, good. So now we have today's calories.
Oh, wow.
There's 0 protein. See progress. So you can see the calories, you can see the carbs, the macronutrients. And so it's pretty complete so far. Add a feature if you like, or we can deploy it too.
Where is it getting the data from? Like, is it already just added a bunch of data about the fruits?
It created a sort of some default data. And I think we'll be able to create, let's see. Chicken breast. So yeah, we can ask it now, where can we create like more?
Or maybe
more
like ask it to just add a bunch more data. Like it probably has data in the LM. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, notice here it's asking you to test it. And once you're done testing it, you're going to say, yes, it works well, but I want you to add a lot more foods to the database.
Okay. And is it set up a proper database for this, or is it like saving stuff on the client or something?
We can actually see, it doesn't look like it's set up a database, but so we can ask it. Sometimes if you made it explicit in the prompt, it will set it up. But because it's paid, sometimes it'll like just give you the ability to do it down the line.
Got it. Okay.
So you could just say like, hey, set up a database for me and make it persistent, and we'll go do that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's adding foods now. Nice.
Yeah, here we go.
There's more now. It's all health. It's all healthy foods. It's not like Doritos.
Yeah. Should we ask for McDonald's?
I'm trying to eat my McDonald's.
So let me tell it to make a database. It works well. Let's migrate to Postgres.
And that is pretty unique for Replit, right? I don't think these other tools have database.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the same time as it's doing that, so it just says, I created a database for you right here. Let me show you the deployment. So you can just click deploy. And this is the other thing that's kind of unique as well, is that we have like a, full deployment environment. You could run Streamlit, you could run virtual machines, you can run autoscale machines. It has, versioning, secrets, logs, analytics. So it's a pretty complete deployment platform in addition to a development platform.
So yeah, I mean, it's great that you built all this stuff before the AI stuff came in, because it all works together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We have this 8 years head start. So let's see. Apple, add meal plan. Let's put an apple here.
Okay, so let me ask you 2 questions. One is like, I guess if there's like a bug and I get stuck, right? And like, with these other tools I've tried, you can get into a state where, it's like, hey, go fix this bug, and then it fixes the bug, and then there's like a new bug, and then you don't actually understand. I don't actually understand how the code works. So it's like just like, hey, go fix bugs. So how do you avoid this like loop that people get stuck on?
So I want to show you a few things. One is as the AI is coding, it is explaining what it's doing.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's as it's writing database.py, it's saying what it's doing here. So at the top of every action, it is explaining what it's doing. And then the other thing I like to do is, and I encourage people to do, is go into the files. So, database.py, for example, and I want to dig into this and actually like try to understand it, step by step. So, for example, I want to see what this does. So I'm going to click explain with assistant, and it should go to assistant here. I'm not sure why it did not work. Oh, here, it replied in line. Sure.
Okay.
So it
awesome,
goes, it goes through the code line by line and tells you exactly what happens. And then you can go to the chat here and have a longer session. So explain to me like 5.
Okay. Yeah, this is awesome because normally I would just copy it into like Cloud or something and try to explain it, but you can do it right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it can dumb it down for you. You can also, let's start a new chat and like ask it higher level question. Explain how this project is structured. So this project is a nutrition tracking application built with Python, Streamlit, SQL Alchemy. The main component is app.py, models.py. I can click on it and go to the file.
That's awesome.
Directory structure, and so on and so forth. So I would say like talking to the AI, and sometimes, going to Claude is also helpful. So you can get like a fresh context, or going to ChatGPT or whatever your AI tool of choice, and, asking questions about the code base. If you run into a bug, you could take that error, ask about an assistant, and then ask it, okay, take me to the file and like show me what I do to fix it. If the AI is stuck and can't really fix it, I would go Google. AI is amazing. But by the way, before AI, engineers were like half of their time on Google. Yeah. So Google still has like a lot of amazing content for you to explore and learn. And my experience teaching people to program and seeing people using Replit Agent is that you're leveling up naturally, almost by osmosis, because you're flexing that muscle of debugging, of systems thinking, and slowly you learn how to code. At some point, you become so interested in the craft that maybe you'll go take a programming course, but it's after you understood what is programming for.
Yeah. It's almost like the reverse, right? Like you actually build something and then you try to break it down. Like you try to, I think the key step that most people don't do is actually like asking questions like this, like explain this to me, how does this work? That's what people need to do. They do ask the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think knowing what to ask is actually quite an important skill. And the other important skill is like what's typically called systems thinking, is being able to like break down problems, think through them one by one. That also enables you to do the right prompting, because a lot of people that I think fail with Agent and similar tools is that they continuously give it like large scope. And if you're telling it every time to like do something really large, then you're increasing the chance of failure as opposed to like chunking the requests down.
So like if you were to give like a couple of top tips, it would be like, do it one feature at a time or one scope at a time. What are some tips to use Replit Agent?
Yeah, I would say I would start with like a chat session, do everything, set up the database, get the first prototype. And now I want to iterate on it. So I will create a new chat and start a new session, a new plan with the agent, and do that one feature. For example, I want to add a way to look up food from the internet. Maybe there's an API. And so I'll start a new session and do that. Now, if I failed and it didn't work well, we have this feature called rollback. So you can click rollback and like, start from the start, because that happens sometimes and you don't want it to break your application. And then another tip is, as the project gets bigger, you want to give it increasingly more pointed instructions and tell it what not to do, because sometimes it gets too creative and starts doing things it's not supposed to do. And we're trying to fix this problem, but somewhat of an inherent problem with these models being a little creative. And I would say those are kind of two two big tips. Don't be afraid of rollback. Start new chats often and be extremely precise with the prompt, and don't make it so that you're asking it three different things. Just ask one thing at a time in each prompt.
And then, and of course, like ask some questions to figure out what it's doing, just like for learning purposes.
Yeah, I especially recommend going to the assistant. So you could think of the assistant as like the cousin of the agent. So agent is doing things on your behalf. It's going to take a lot. It has a lot of agency. It's going to make a lot of decisions without consulting you. Assistant is more like a co-pilot kind of tool, where it's not going to make any changes until you ask it to. It is really much better at chatting. You can brainstorm with it. And so it's important to know when to use the tools.
Awesome. Thanks for giving me that demo. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about how Replit builds products. And when we start with like kind of your vision for the company, like is it everyone going to become a programmer, or what's the vision? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about it, the ultimate, let's call it the ultimate function of a computer is to do things on your behalf, is to automate your work, just do things for you, right? It is not just a tool like a pencil. It is a tool that can, do a lot more things behind the scenes. You give it an instruction. So in an Excel spreadsheet, you change a number, it will reflow, do all these calculations. So computers were always meant to be like that. Now, the problem is very few people know how to code. And so the most programmable environment that most people have is only Excel. That there are other sort of modern tools, but they really, they stop at the sort of the power of Excel. So if you were to wave your hands and get everyone to become a programmer, I think a lot more people would get a lot more of computers. And I think productivity would soar. I think people will be happier because they're not doing menial tasks. So it's similar to this vision of AGI, but you don't really need full AGI. As long as you have a machine that is good at writing programs, you're going to have a very powerful tool. So our view is that not everyone needs to be a programmer, but everyone can benefit from making software. So we have examples from a community where a dad, makes kind of software for education, like make an interactive sort of solar system, application, and you can scroll through and like look at the planets and their information and things like that. Another thing is like, dad made this app called Chore Hero. It's it's like a leaderboard for the kids to see who's doing the most chores, who's collecting the most scores, and things like that.
That's nice.
So obviously people, we just made an app for workout, but people use it for work a lot as well. So it's like this dual nature of it that makes it very interesting. And this is why I feel strongly that we're going to reach a billion people eventually, because I really think that if you can use a computer, you should be able to make software.
Yeah, and I love how like as let's just kind of more personal software. Like I made an app that just helped me resizes images for my blog, and like I never sell it for money, but it's a useful tool for me personally. It's like it addresses one person's problem.
Yeah, and especially all these tools on the internet, they're full of ads and spam and whatever. Mm-hmm. So making your own tools is just like way better. I said this before we launched the agent, but I said the ultimate test for like a code generation system is that you can make an app faster than you can Google for it.
I love that. Yeah.
And in some cases, that's true today.
Yeah, because Google, you have to like browse all the links and like, look at all the ads. How do you think about Replit? Like, how do you differentiate Replit against all the other coding agents out there, like, Bolt, Cursor, V0?
Yeah, so I think, there are these apps that are focused on code generation, which I put kind of Bolt and Cursor in similar category. You're not using them to make the end user software, maybe in some cases, because you have to take it somewhere else most of the time. Sometimes you make it with Bolt or V0, take it to Cursor, improve it in Cursor, and then take it to Vercel and deploy it there. With Replit, the entire software development lifecycle is in one place. If you're using Cursor, you still need to figure out what database to use, how to do auth, and you need to learn all of that stuff. You need to learn how to start a development environment. And with Replit, you could come to Replit, you put in the natural language prompt, we'll create a database for you, we'll figure out what kind of deployment you need. Obviously, we'll make the app for you. You can do sort of database migrations. You can handle different integrations. Like we could have asked Replit to make summarize my daily progress of my nutrition tracker using OpenAI. And they'll say, okay, what is your OpenAI secret? Then it'll save that and I'll use that to summarize it. Another thing is Replit supports a lot of different stacks. We have people doing a lot of data analysis and dashboards using Streamlit. We have a lot of people making sort of personal apps, either with like Flask and JavaScript or React and JavaScript. There are people making APIs. So I'm just going to make an API, with Fast API or Flask to go grab something from the internet and return JSON because I want to plug it into Zapier or some of my own, or I'm going to give it to a front-end engineer and they're going to use it. So it's a lot more dynamic tool with a wider sort of aperture and scale of usages.
Yeah, I mean, going back to you guys have been doing this for 8 or 9 years, right? So it's much more full featured. How do you get it to be like, because for a lot of consumers, they just care about like the user experience. So I'm just curious, like, how do you get the agent to build good UI? Like, how do you, is that a hard problem?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot better at it over the past 3 or 4 months. A lot of it's just prompts, just figuring out the right prompts. A lot of it is just like yelling at it to like make beautiful websites, make modern production ready websites or something like that.
Okay.
And, I'm not kidding, that's a big part of it. The other part is using the right libraries. So, ShadCN is a sort of JavaScript React.js library that ships with components that from the start are actually pretty nice. I'm sure you've seen it. V0, I think, uses it by default as well. And using like an existing design system like that makes the app, by default is like, oh, I'm just going to ship this to production. And then there's like responsiveness and there's like making sure you have the right HTML tags. And a lot of it is just like kind of, iterating and fixing all these small things just to make sure the user experience is a lot better.
Yeah, you have to be like very detail oriented during use AI products. What do you think about, let's talk about, I think you worked at Facebook for like 2 or 3 years, right? Like a long time ago. And, like a lot of these companies have like these annual planning processes with like a lot of PMs in a room. And then they have like a 3-year roadmap or like a vision. And then, I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of like, not very useful if you spend too long doing that kind of stuff. So like, how do you guys do planning, or like, what do you think about all this planning stuff?
Frankly, we don't.
That's great.
And, honestly, I think roadmaps are dead. Like, you want to be able to react to new technology, which happens every 2 weeks now. So, we dropped everything and like played with R1. We decided it's very interesting academically, but it doesn't come close to Sonnet for coding, for example. So you want to be able to react to that. But like if it turned out to be great, we're just going to pour more resources into it and build it into our system. So in this environment where the ground is shifting underneath your feet, you want to be able to kind of shift resources really quickly. And roadmaps make people rigid because they're going to be single-minded about one thing. The way we do things is I generally have a sort of direction or something, a higher level goal. For example, this quarter or this month, we're focusing on growth. And then I say like, okay, come up with ideas for growth. And everyone goes and like has ideas. And then we put them together. We pick the best ideas. We'll split the teams and like we go work on it. Mm-hmm. And then let's say, we want to work on reliability. It's like, here are the issues, like, agent reliability. We have all these metrics. We want to move these metrics. And then, everyone contributes to that. And so we try to do like 1 or 2 or 3 things per, whatever quarter or whatever interval we're thinking about. And we don't really plan for the next quarter. Like as we're doing this, like more information presents itself and the application change and the user behavior change and the technology change. And so then we come up with a priority for the next quarter. And again, it's like single word, growth, reliability, retention, something like that. Sometimes it's like, when I build a new product, right? Sometimes it's like, by the time people are watching this, we would have launched our new mobile app that is agent AI first and allows you to build apps on your phone. I encourage everyone to go try it out. And so that came out from the feeling that mobile is could be a really great experience, and we could reach people that otherwise we wouldn't be able to reach. Because there are a lot of people that spend about 0 time on their, on their computer, and they spend it more on their iPhones and iPads and things like that. So this is how we sort of make decisions and how we align the team. And I think especially small startups should consider doing something like that.
Yeah. And how do you think, like, how do you guys use Replit internally, or like, how does the product teams build this? Like, how do you guys build the mobile app? Is that like,
we the way we see Replit is it is for making these standalone applications and, being relatively simple, being able to, you can deploy them, being able to scale them, you can build a business on it. But, if you're a professional engineer working at Replit, sometimes you just need an IDE. So we have that. But the way we use Replit is 2 or 3 ways. One is our designers use it to prototype. Increasingly, we're skipping the Figma step. We go straight to prototypes. Our engineers use it to look at the feasibility of doing something. Our engineers use it all the time for building debugging tools, building proof of concepts, things like that. And every once in a while, we use it to build a production system. And typically that's like a microservice or an API or something like that. We also use it a lot for data analysis. But if we're building like the Rust infrastructure that runs the cloud for Replit, we're not going to use Replit for that.
What do the PMs do? Or do you still have PMs in the company? Do the PMs do?
We have 1 PM that was designer originally. We just added also young and very energetic and exciting PM. But PM organization at Replit is not fully developed yet, and our PMs are kind of creators, right? Like so they spend a lot of time making things either in Figma or in Replit. They bring, experience around how to design experiments. They talk to users a lot. They do research and user testing. They do quite a bit of project management and make sure different teams are talking together and aligning. But we're at a point, and maybe someone in the audience would want to join. We're at a point where we're hiring for product management.
Okay. Yeah, my theory is that you can't be like a straight shot PM anymore these days. You gotta like have some other skill. Like you gotta at least talk to the users, man. You can't just like do all the internal alignment stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I think PM is one of those very dynamically shifting sort of role.
But actually, like PMs actually can help build AI products now because like the prompt is so important and some of this stuff is just very like manual and iterative. So like yesterday, I spent the whole day like trying to update a prompt for my product. It's actually kind of annoying work, man. It's like going back and forth.
What is your background?
We're building this, I can't talk too much about it. We're building this AI product internally at Roblox, and we're trying to make the output like consistent, like, not have it hallucinate. And, updating the prompt is like one part of it, right? Updating a prompt, running the evals, updating a prompt again. It's like that loop.
You're a product manager at Roblox, but sounds like you're in the trenches building.
I'm like the I pride myself on being the anti-PM. So like, I want to build, man. I don't want to write documents. I want to build.
Yes. Yeah. Amen.
Well, okay. Well, let's wrap up by talking about, let's talk a little bit about your big launch. Like what are some of the big things that are changing about Replit?
So the big thing is we're making Replit Agent free to try. So we'll give people like a generous allotment of credits to try Replit Agent. You can go all the way from a prompt to an app that's working. and you'll be able to share it with your friends. And I think that's like one of the most sort of cherished experience when you're able to make software and share it with someone. We, like I mentioned the mobile app a couple of times, but I think that it's a first of its kind. We took a lot of novel approach for the design to figure out what is like a making experience look on such a tiny screen. And I think we have some really exciting sort of design concept that I hope people will try. And then we were coming out with like a social experience where once you make an app on Replit, you can choose to share it to let other people remix it. And talking about the educational experience that we talked about earlier, being able to remix other people's apps, I found like as a kid, that's how I learned. I would download Visual Basic Code from the internet and like tinker with it until it works. And we're coming up with a new onboarding experience that teaches you how to use Replit, because for a long time, we just threw you on this homepage and you have to figure it out.
Uh-huh.
So this new onboarding experience will, like for new users, will like guide you through building your first application, perhaps sharing it as well.
Yeah, I noticed that the UI has evolved from like, it's gotten more focus over time all the way to now it's just like a input box. So that's great. Yeah.
I think over time we're gonna keep simplifying. And that's the thing about our culture is that there are no sacred cows. Like I think you don't want to be tied to a certain time and place, and you want to be able to meet the future where it is, or actually run towards the future before the future arrives, so you can be ahead of the game maybe a little bit.
And do you have any closing words of advice? Like we're at an interesting moment in tech, right? Where like maybe it's the year of the AI agents. Maybe instead of like doing a co-pilot thing, you can just like tell the agent to do something and then come back an hour later, and then it'll be done. And at the same time, you have all these companies like big tech companies, like, trying to be more efficient, going through layoffs. Like, how does someone someone in tech think about all this? Like,
I think if you're sort of going through school, you have and you want to work in tech, I think you have two radically divergent ways to think about it. If you want to be a programmer and have job security, I think you have to pick something as close to the metal as possible. For example, NASA will not have JavaScript generated or like GPT generated JavaScript run the rockets, right? Or the Tesla cars or what have you. So if you want to work on embedded systems using C, you have job security for 50 years maybe. Similarly, if you work on cloud platform, writing Rust or Go or things like that, I found that the AI is typically not very good at that because it is not very well represented in the training data. The other direction is you want to get really good at being a product person, and at being a generalist, being a designer, a maker, a PM. And that's because I think this like full stack developer, that's the thing that's most at risk, right? Because it's the thing that's most represented on GitHub. It's the thing that AI is most good at. And it's the thing that's already somewhat automated, like people using Replit and Cursor and others. You're already sort of automating a big part of it. So I think the demand for engineers like that, I think will go down. And instead, companies will look for generalists that can go from ideation to production code by using AI. And I think they're going to be a lot more highly leveraged. And again, also, if you're already in industry, I would run in one of those directions. Don't stay in the middle. I think the middle is going to get squeezed.
I totally agree. I think the generous direction is more fun because you can try different things every day. And maybe you can just like start your own one-person company and like, sell like a niche thing and then it'll work out for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a bunch of people who did that with the sort of advent of generative AI.
Awesome. Well, Amjad, where can people, I guess they go to replit.com, right?
Go to replit.com, sign up, try agent. If you like it, give us some money and we'll make sure that you're going to have a blast. I was just going to say like Masad, AMASAD, most on the web, like Twitter is the channel I spend most of my time on.
And I want to thank you on behalf of all the PMs out there for democratizing programming for all of us. So we have hope. Yeah.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.